All right, I want to go ahead and look at the deep state um, and information that we have on it. Let's go ahead with the permanent security class. I'm going to save this as we go on. All right, so I'm going to play a little bit of this.
Administrative state is not a theory. It's
All right, so we start up here. Ooh, come on, let's go. I have some complaints about my pronunciations and enunciations. I'm from the South. Got to leave it, give me some, cut me some slack. Um, I'll practice more.
the permanent security class. How America's hidden bureaucracy outlives elections.
So we outlives elections. So we don't talk about the power base that never goes away. It's like a fungus. It's like a mold. Okay, so don't get me wrong. There are beautiful people out there, strong Americans that love their country, that will give their lives defending this country. We're not talking about it, but there are also those that, and any president come to 4 8 years, you're not going to outlast the bureaucrats, but you got to lessen their impact when they are there for a paycheck, and they are there with a degree of power that can't be checked. Now we administrative state can be both good and bad, but American people want certain things done, and they can gum up the works. So that's what we want to talk about. That's what we want to address here. So let's go.
The administrative state is not a theory, it's a structure. Every 4 years, Americans vote for a president, but the national security system does not turn over with the ballots.
So what we're saying here, if you look at agencies like the CIA, the FBI, NSA, and the Pentagon are staffed by career personnel for decades. And I don't know if this will help because I don't know how. Take a look at it. I want to get this thing. I should have set it all up before, but deal with it. Help me out here. Work with me. See how that looks. I don't like it to be too close to me. Maybe I go back to this. All right, that's just the way it's going to be, I guess. It's not a good capture, but let's go back. Um, go back up a little bit.
Agencies like the CIA, FBI, NSA, and the Pentagon are staffed by career personnel who stay for decades.
So, president in for 48 years. He bring in an administration. If he was new, like President Trump, he came in with ideas, and not all of them were great, and not all of them were articulated the way they should be. God gave us 4 years under Biden, and now Trump has come back in full strength. So we're looking at that. That's what we're looking at. And there are those that are entrenched on their leftist ideas. They are part of the administration in the permanent state. And also they have a globalist mindset, a superior mindset, and they're not letting go of it. And this is what we are talking about, the hidden bureaucracy that outlasts any elections. You're going to have to take, president 8 years plus, say, the vice president. He goes on to do another 8 years, so that's 16 years. But if you come in early, you can go 35, 40 years in the system, and power shifts back and forth. And then still, the administrative state, they have their own mindset.
Layers of senior civil servants, analysts, lawyers, and contractors form a permanent structure that does not shift when one administration replaces another.
So, Democrats come in, Republicans come in, come and go. They're back and forth. However, the administrative staff, they are like the palace guard. They're the administrative. All administrators, just like the cura in the Vatican. The Pope comes in and he makes his overall statements, but the actual running of the system relies on others, and that's all. That's all it is. I mean, it's going to be that way. The way the U.S. Museum is run, the Capitol Museum, whatever museum, it's not necessarily dictated unless something comes up in the president's preview to say, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to change that." So that is to be expected, and the system runs on itself. That is to be expected. But we also have to deal with certain things like the immigration and nationalization process, and the way the border was opened up. There's many different things that happen, and it's happening, that we have to deal with. So that's what we're talking about today.
This continuity can be good for stability. It can also create a system that outgrows public control.
So this is the point: when the head is shrunk, but the body is huge. The body politic, the administration, the bureaucracy is hidden, but is there. Just like Kash Patel was talking, I believe it was like 11,000 headquarter FBI agents that he's pushing them out into the field. Not everybody's going to go. Not everybody's going to like it. But if they got to go to Kansas, if they got to go to Okinoki, Okefenokee or whatever, they got to move away from that power center and get out and actually do some work. Some, I'm sure, will be retiring, and it'll be a mix up, But the president is doing a overhaul of all systems to a certain extent. And just like the Department of Education needs to be overhauled, that much billions of dollars going in and the education of our kids going down, the system needs to be flipped on itself. We need to get things done. We need to innovate and to renovate. So that is to be considered also.
The deeper you go into national security, the stronger the culture of insulation becomes.
So, yes, when a president comes in, we need people that have been there, from the butler to chief of staff or a staff member under the chief, unappointed, that knows the system, can point out where is what and what goes where. That is necessary. And they can become protective, and they can become insulated and overly involved in things that they need not do. Now, again, people coming in don't know the job, thinking they know the job. Someone that's been there for a while can tell them, "Hey, I wouldn't do that by you. That's hot. This is the way we done it. Some certain things can move, but no, you can't take this, or no, you can't move that. This, the law covers this." So we do need the stability. We do need the history. We do need the institutional memory, but within respect to the American people.
Presidents leave, cabinet secretaries leave, but the bureaucracy remains intact. This permanent class shapes intelligence priorities, surveillance programs, foreign policy frameworks, and the internal boundaries of executive power.
So you got in the military, you got in law enforcement, you got federal law enforcement, you got in education, you got all these departments that are entrenched and sometimes cross effective. You know, they don't they get entangled with themselves, they get entangled with the system, and they are not willing to move. We also need and have to deal with and focus on the unions that pertain to them. So it's many things that have to be done, and at 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 times I feel is not being done correctly. Let me get this camera some kind of way. So let's go on a little bit.
History shows how far these institutions can reach when the internal culture decides it must save the republic from the people elected to run it.
So they in of themselves say, hey, we're going to go against the agenda of the people who voted in this, you know, Democrat, Republican, or whoever else. Unless it's against the Constitution, unless it's against the law, things are going to slow down. And what is called for is for that group to follow, follow orders within the law. The president come up with something that's unlawful, then you have to make a decision, stay or go. Excuse me, but or become a whistleblower, where and protected. The Biden administration and especially Obama administration really went after the whistleblowers. So we need to maybe do another video on that. How they went against the whistleblowers. What did they do? How did they do it? So I'm dealing with policy and procedure, public policy and administration, and how the culture of the hidden bureaucracy, the administrative state, I'm looking at it as negative, but as we go, I want to point out some positive things also. But when the deep state went after President Trump, that is what we're keying on. This powerful apparatus threw 92 different charges at the man. They impeached him twice. All this, he got shot at twice. Some lapse in judgment, some lapse in procedure. We almost lost the president. So that is what we're dealing with. That is what we want to address at this time.
Americans vote for a president.
All right, so where we are. All right, so we get into some programs that have gone through over the years that you may have been familiar with or may not. But this
COINTELPRO, a bureaucracy that ran its own domestic agenda. From 1956.
COINTELPRO. This is what we want to get at. It's spicy, it's juicy, it got a lot of history in it, and the powerful people in the federal government came after individuals, and they did it unlawfully. So we want to get into that.
COINTELPRO, a bureaucracy that ran its own domestic agenda. From 1956 to 1971, the FBI ran COINTELPRO, a network of covert domestic operations targeting American citizens and political groups. It infiltrated civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, the Black Panthers, the Nation of Islam, and others.
Now, COINTELPRO, was it necessary? There was threats going out. There was, especially in the 60s when I was growing up. You had civil rights leaders. They was trying to dirty him up. They was trying to get information to bring him down. The anti-war was going on. Even the war is bad. They lied about the war. Again, the system, the administrative state, the bureaucracy of the military lied to get us into war. Was they told to do it? We probably may never know. But that is one of the key issues on this policy and administration where we're talking about how those entrenched say, yeah, we need to get involved in this, end up costing 50,000 American lives and this sort of thing. Um, Going into Iraq when we didn't have to and disrupting that whole nation wasn't necessary to tell all the lies, looking for weapons of mass destruction and all that debacle. So it's things that we're looking at here. All right.
Internal FBI memos stated that the purpose was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize these groups.
Again, the internal FBI memos stated that their purpose was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, especially, it comes to mind Martin Luther King, or otherwise neutralize these groups' actions far outside normal law enforcement boundaries. This was an intelligent operation, not a law enforcement operation. This is what state police do in foreign governments. This is what the Nazis or the KGB would do. Infiltrate and destroy the power. Instead of a law enforcement activity, they was operating in the United States unlawfully. Congress did not order it. It was not overseen by the courts. It was created and sustained inside the FBI, built on its own internal logic and assumptions about who should be watched and who should be silenced. Only a break-in at a Pennsylvania FBI office exposed that program. And I was reading a book about it, and I forgot the name of the book, but it was a hippie book, and they was very anti-establishment and talks about the individuals who broke into it, and then that's amazing that you leave that kind of stuff in the office and not truly. I guess they was not even thinking that someone would break into the FBI. We, the FBI, no one would dare do that. So COINTELPRO shows that what happens when a permanent security class become confident, no one can stop them. And they got snitched on, and because they left the paperwork. All right, then you had the Hoover files, power without accountability. Again, J. Edgar Hoover ran the FBI from 1924 to 1972. His tenure crossed 8 presidents. By the end, he had built private intelligence files on presidents, senators, journalists, and public figures. Okay, his what we can say, he was in bed with the mafia and different things, or something was going on for whatever reason. Personal, some accounts, they had information on him, and he didn't want to acknowledge the mafia. Historians note that several presidents, including Truman, Kennedy, and Johnson, believe Hoover used these files as leverage. Firing him was considered politically dangerous, because he was seen by the American people as being a solid part of the establishment, a solid part of American, I don't know what you say, democracy. Some people saw him as solid, especially during the time of, the Cold War. They had someone there that they can trust, who's been there for ages. Here the imbalance is clear. An unelected official with decades of tenure held more institutional continuity than the men chosen to lead the nation. Hoover embodied what critics now call the deep state. Yes, sir. A security bureaucracy that becomes a political force in its own right. Watergate, when intelligence agencies refuse a presidential order. So Nixon, during the Watergate scandal, President Nixon tried to use the CIA, like other presidents, to tell the FBI to shut down the Watergate break-in investigation. The CIA refused. The FBI pursued the case Internal tensions widened until leaks and investigative reporting exposed the entire operation. We need to get into some of those um, operatives that was placed in the news industries. I think Bob Woodward or different ones, to be sure, we had to look it up, that seem to have connections to the intelligence community and seem to be in a position to get information that others were not allowed to or didn't have the connections. All right, Watergate did not prove a unified security government, but it did expose the reality of internal resistance. Agencies weighed the president's order against their own institutional interests and the law. In the end, parts of the security bureaucracy worked around the president and helped reveal his abuses. It was a purpose for that. They had their own agenda going above and beyond the president, and it's fine that he was exposed. That's not the problem. But what Biden did, to me, is 50 to 100 times more. Again, this remains one of the clearest examples of internal resistance to political power. Now, again, he was unlawful in that. However, they would do unlawful stuff for their own gain, but not for the gain of the president. All right, modern resistance. In the 2018 anonymous op-ed. In 2018, the New York Times published an anonymous op-ed written by a senior Trump administrative official titled, "I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration." This is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. When they are letting the world know the president, United States know, the president you elected, we are against. We're going to do everything in our power to usurp his authority. The author openly stated that insiders in the executive branch were working diligently from inside to frustrate parts of the president's agenda. Now, it is and has been relayed that these sometimes journalists will interview themselves. All right, they say we have a someone who's given us information and we can't disclose it, but it'll be a straw man that they build to say things that they cannot validate. Generally, you would have to have, back in the day when real journalism was done, two sources to confirm the information. They don't do that anymore for the most part. Real journalism is sensationalized now. This is not speculation. A federal official admitted that unelected staff were overriding or slowing the directive of the elected president because they believe he should be restrained. Later, the author was revealed to be Miles Taylor, chief of staff at DHS. This was the first modern public admission that the permanent bureaucracy had formed an internal resistance to an elected commander-in-chief. Imagine that. Borderline treason, if you ask me. Whatever one's view of Trump, this episode shows that resistance inside the government is not a fantasy. It is a documented phenomenon. The modern pipeline. Intelligence to Congress. All right. Alyssa Slotkin represents a modern pattern. Senior intelligence, defense, or national security official transitioning into Congress, carrying the world view shaped inside the permanent security apparatus, bureaucracy. Her career path is typical of this pipeline. CIA Middle East analysis, recruited after graduate school, National Security Council staff, senior Pentagon official, acting Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, congressional representative, and now senator for Michigan. This pipeline is not illegal or conspiratorial, but it is structural. It ensures that parts of Congress are staffed by individuals shaped by the same worldview as the bureaucrats or bureaucracies that they are supposed to oversee. She's one of them. So she's now going to mold them. So say she wasn't the head, but she had ideas the way it should be run. Guess what she get to do now? All right. From that power stance, she can either help or hinder the president and or the department. All right. So all right. The question becomes, how independent can oversight be when overseers are produced by the system they oversee? All right, the insiders, just like the military, But that's the beauty of America. You can come from the audit, or you're not held out because you was part of the military. Now you go in the military um, oversight committee. It may be compromised there, maybe some um, petty vendettas that need to be done. You never know. This is essential tension in the modern administrative state. The reality: a permanent security class that outlives elections. There is no verified evidence that Slotkin or any other specific group of officials is running an active coup against a sitting president. The claim, all right, if it is, requires proof not found in the public record at this time. However, the six that call for the military and law enforcement, federal law enforcement, to disobey the president of the United States, they call it unlawful, but they didn't define it. Just their statements could be treasonous in the point that they disrupt the continued operation of military operations and or ongoing operations. But a documented record does support a broader argument. One, U.S. U.S. national security system is a permanent class with continuity that far exceeds elected leadership. Like I said, they can be in there for 40 years. You get a president for the most 8. If a president get 8 years as, say a vice president get 8 years as vice president and 8 years as president, do the numbers. Recent events show open resistance inside the executive branch against the president chosen by voters. A steady pipeline moves national security personnel from the intelligence community into legislative power, strengthening the institutional ties between the bureaucracy and Congress. This is not a movie script. It is a structural reality built over decades. Elections shift the top layer. The permanent security class carries on. So they're not going anywhere. Just want to touch bases on that. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not following, please like, share, leave a comment, tell me what you think. You like my voice, you hate my voice. It's there. It is what it is. But please drop me a line. Let me know and what you want to see next and what subject is on your mind. So appreciate it and God bless. We're going to end this screen here.